Creative Chats Podcast with Mike Brennan. Hey friends, welcome to a last episode of Creative Chats for 2023. I am so thankful that you've taken time to listen, whether this is your first episode you're listening to or you've been a faithful listener since the beginning. Thank you for spending this time. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope that you've been getting a lot of insights and encouragement from the conversations I've been having with fellow creative people, or even as I share my own journey and thoughts, experiences around creativity and fun and play and innovation. And so I want to, as always, welcome you to the show, but also extend an invitation to you to swing by dailycreativehabit.com. If you're not already signed up for the Daily Creative Habit newsletter that comes via email once a week, then I want to encourage you to do so. It is my way of providing some more resources that are absolutely free straight to you so that you can succeed and thrive on your creative journey. This is a labor of love. It is something that I share, not only my insights and things that have worked for me in my 12 plus years of creating every single day, but I get to share with you also resources that I come across. And so I really want to encourage you, sign up for this email. I know nobody wants more email in their inbox, myself included, but if you get something that's valuable, you certainly appreciate it. And so that is my belief, that you will find value in this email newsletter that comes to you each and every week. Plus, it's another way for us to stay connected beyond the podcast. So go to dailycreativehabit.com and sign up for that today. And also, brand new, I have a quiz that's attached to that. When you sign up, you can take the Creative Archetype quiz and find out a little bit more about what kind of creator are you. This hopefully will give you some more insights into making sure that you can actually lean into your strengths and your abilities on purpose. And so anytime I have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about myself, about my creativity, I jump at the chance because it just makes me better and helps me show up more effectively and intentionally. So again, stop by dailycreativehabit.com and subscribe to that newsletter. Take the quiz today. Now, for this episode, I wanted to just press pause because, we're at the end of a year here, the end of 2023, and it's a natural time to pause. I mean, besides the holiday madness that usually goes on, it's a time to pause and reflect before we turn the calendar to a new year. There's something that's built in for us to be able to do this. And if we take the time, even if there's just a little bit of time, we can stop and pause and think and ask ourselves, what did this last year look like for me creatively? Like, did I accomplish the creative goals that I set out to do? Or are there things that I intended to do that I just never did? And that's not a guilt thing. That's simply an assessment. It's questions for you to ask yourself so that you can make sure that you're setting yourself up for success as you head into this next year. Because you're probably like me. You don't want to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. You certainly don't want to see an item be moved on your do list and your vision board from one year to the next, to the next, to the next. I mean, that's just pushing the ball down the field, kicking the can down the road, whatever that saying is, right? Nobody wants to waste their time doing that. And it's just a constant reminder of something that you just haven't accomplished yet. And so if we want to see different results, we got to do different things, right? And so this is a perfect time of year to ask yourself some questions, to evaluate your creativity, and to think about, what are the creative goals that I want to achieve? And as you look back on this last year, hopefully you're able to identify at least a few things that you accomplished and you can celebrate. Now, I'm always talking about this as part of the framework that I talk about in Daily Creative Habit, is the importance of celebrating. And I think especially as creative people who are always looking forward, always looking to the future of what's coming next, what can I create next? We get into this creative process, we produce something, we get it out into the world, and then we want to move on to the next and the new. And so there's this built-in drive to achieve and to create. And if we're not careful, we don't stop, we don't reflect, we don't think about where we've been and celebrate, even if it's small moments, things that we need to celebrate that remind us of where we were and where we are now. Even if it's only a few steps forward, that's still growth. That is still movement forward. And so I think it's important to just pause and celebrate. And so I want to encourage you to think about, even as you're listening to this episode in this moment, what are the things that you can celebrate that you achieved creatively? Did you learn a new skill? Did you complete a project? Did you perhaps record and capture a bunch of ideas of some projects that you want to do, some things that you haven't executed on maybe, but that at least you started to gather some resources, or you've done some research. You've started to learn a new process. Perhaps there's a new collaboration that still needs to be worked on, but at least you've made the initial connections. There's always something that we can celebrate, no matter how small it may seem. And maybe you have big things. Maybe you have things that are very obvious to you and that you have celebrated this year. It's just another time to remind yourself of what you've accomplished this year. And why do we do this? Well, again, we do this so that we can see how far we've come, so that we reinforce to ourselves the importance of celebrating. And if you're like me, that's something that doesn't come naturally. And also, you want to set yourself up for creative goals in the next year that build on what you've done this year. There's a process of setting realistic goals. And, maybe you've heard of this thing called SMART goals. Someone introduced this to me, actually, I think it was when I was in a staff position working for an organization, and they used to do reviews and they would talk about these SMART goals. And, at first I was a little bit frustrated by trying to think about what these look like, and especially in different areas of my life. And I would get kind of just frustrated because I was unfocused. And I've learned that if I can actually lean into what these mean, what SMART goals mean, I can harness more of the power. And if you're not familiar with SMART goals, it's an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. I'll repeat that. It's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. And I think when we start thinking about the goals, putting them through this grid, be as specific as you can be. What do you want to do? It's not enough to say, well, I want to become a great musician, or I want to become a prolific writer, or I want to become a better painter. Those things are great, but they're not really specific. Specific would be, I would love to be the type of creative person. I would love to be the type of artist who sits down and paints every single day for at least 20 minutes. And that leads me to the second one, right? So specific, measurable. There's a way that you can actually measure progress. Because if you can't measure it, then it stays kind of foggy and you don't know whether or not you're actually making any progress. And so it's really important to be able to be specific, to give you some kind of metrics so that you can measure, to make sure that this is actually achievable, right? Like, you can't say simply, well, my goal is to become the most famous creative person in the entire world. Well, that's not specific, it's not measurable, and certainly I don't think it's achievable. I think you can be the best creative person you can be, and I think you can always be getting better. But I think to have this unrealistic goal of saying, I want to be the most, famous or the best creative person in the entire world that ever existed, that's a tall order. Relevant, making sure that the goals that you're setting are actually relevant to where you want to go. Sometimes it's like starting with the end in mind and working backwards. It's not simply just to give yourselves some things to do. It's not to fill up a category and say, well, I have this category of relevant. I got to throw something in there. I have to have some kind of goal. So I guess let me just pick something out of a hat. Make sure that it's relevant. Make sure it's actually leading you someplace you want to go and helping you achieve something that you truly want to achieve. And the last thing is time bound, making sure that you're actually looking at your calendar. You're thinking about how long realistically does this goal require of me? Do I have that amount of time available? Do I have the ability to prioritize for that time? And, I talk about time a lot in terms of people always say, well, I just can't seem to find the time for creativity. Finding time is a myth. Nobody finds it. It's not like a video game and all of a sudden you've unlocked a new level. You get an extra hour. That's not realistic, right? It's not finding time. It's actually learning to prioritize for certain goals in our time and with our time. Because if something's valuable enough, if something is important enough, we will make sure that we prioritize for it. And so that's the SMART goal system. I would encourage you to maybe sit with that, even if it's just for 15 minutes. Think through something that you would like to accomplish in this next year. And maybe even take some time to visualize yourself achieving that in this next year. And, for some people that may sound like really woo-woo, like kind of really out there or something. But, if we can imagine ourselves doing something, it doesn't seem like it's such a far leap then, because we're starting to picture it in our minds. Sometimes it's like if someone said, hey, would you like $1 billion? And you'd be like, of course I do. Now, I want you to picture $1 billion. Well, I don't really know what that looks like because I've never seen $1 billion in front of me. And so it's hard for me to process and think about and to actually go, okay, yeah, I would like that, sure. Now, of course, we all understand money. We all understand the value and the amounts we're talking about, right? But the point being, if you can see something, then you get a vision for it. And if you have a vision for it, it's more likely that you will set goals that point you in the direction of success and to achieve that vision. So why not try it? Now, all this talk about goals, all this talk about assessing where we've been, where we want to go, man, I'm excited to let you know that I am doing something brand new for you. And that is, I'm setting up a 30-day creative challenge. Now, this 30-day creative challenge is absolutely free. It is starting on January 15th, 2023. So we've got a little bit of time from when this episode airs, if you're listening currently. And this is going to be something that is designed to be short, daily, actionable, creative steps. The last thing that I want to do is give you something that feels too heavy, that feels like it's going to set you up for failure rather than success. If your desire is to really develop the ability and the habit of showing up, choosing your creativity, learning to prioritize for it, so it's not I flirt with my creativity whenever it seems that I get some time and I'm like, hey, it's been a little while. How you doing? It's not that kind of situation. You don't wait for large blocks of time that never seem to come. Or perhaps you're in a creative rut. You've been creative, but you just seem to be stuck. You're doing the same things over and over again. You're really not taking any new ground and you don't feel like you're growing. You don't feel like you're moving forward. You're just kind of stuck. Or maybe you find yourself that when you do have some time available, your capacity has been diminished. You've been so stressed maybe and so preoccupied with other responsibilities in your life that when you finally get that free moment, you are staring at a blank page, a blank canvas. You don't know what to do and you don't feel inspired. And so then you're like, I don't think this is going to work because I'm not feeling it. The muse has not come to visit me. All these things, I've experienced over the past years, and I hear these things all the time from fellow creative people. And so I'm trying my best here to set you up for success with this 30-day creative challenge. Now, what does this look like? Well, it's simple. It is a 30-day email that you will get, one a day for 30 days, and there are short, actionable steps. These emails, they're literally maybe a few sentences, right? Now, don't be alarmed by the amount of emails that you'll be getting, 30 of them, right? It's designed for you, again, simply to get in and get out and do what it is that you're being challenged with for that day. Now, these challenges are not specific to a certain creative expression, right? It's not like these are all about visual art, or this is all about music, or this is all about creating a course or launching a podcast or whatever other creative thing that you might be doing. It's not specific to those categories. You bring that to this process. This is all about you engaging with a process. It's forming a habit of showing up, choosing yourself, choosing creativity, and it's designed so that it's short, it's small. And this is exactly how I came back to my creativity. When I walked away from it for 10 years, I was thinking, can I even come back to my art, my creativity? Can I do this again? I don't even know. Plus, I was suffering from depression, and there were a lot of things in my life that were kind of conspiring against this. But I said, you know what? All I can do today is show up for maybe 15 minutes and do something. Like, let's just see what happens. Let's see where this goes. And so this process took shape and took root. And again, it's something that now I'm yielding the fruit of this 12 plus years later. This is something, a process that was instilled in me to get to work, to take action, to create, and to equip myself with what was needed in my mindset and in me being able to prioritize my schedule, being able to access my creativity quicker, and actually be able to execute on some things. Now, let me tell you what this challenge is not about. It's not about finishing a huge project. It's not about mastering an entire new skill. It's not about anything that's huge. It's not about the masterpiece. Now, can some of that stuff happen in 30 days? Sure, I guess so. But that's not the point. I don't want you going into this challenge thinking that that is what this is all about. It's not about the result of what it is that you're creating. It's not about the product, if you will. It's more about the process. And so the process is one that takes it day by day, little steps, repetition. And so it's getting you in this new habit, getting you thinking about these things, getting you practicing some things, getting you taking action that's easy in the beginning. And you might think, well, what does this really seem to do here? This isn't really valuable because it's not really moving the needle much, you may think. The same as if you had some pennies and you're putting pennies in a jar and you're thinking, these are pennies. Like, what is this really going to do? But it's the cumulative effect. The more that you do this, the more accumulates, the easier this process becomes, the more you lean into it, the more it becomes how you show up to create. So this is a primer. This is a jumpstart. This is something designed to get you moving, perhaps for the first time in a long time, or maybe get you moving in a different way. Because if you're feeling stuck and in a rut and you need some just new stimuli, this will give you some points at which you can grab a hold of and put into practice and start to see some things happening. And most days, we're not talking about anything beyond maybe 15, 20, 25 minutes a day. And I think we can all find that kind of time within our days to be able to take this challenge and then start to see some things happen. So I'm not going to tell you what you should be doing for this challenge. I want you to think about one thing and one thing only, because if you try to scatter yourself too much with too many different goals that are creative at the same time with this process, you are certainly not going to feel like you're getting any traction. So I want you to choose one thing. And that thing could be like learning a certain thing. It could be a small project. It could be, I don't know what this looks like for you. I don't know what your creative goal is going to be. You fill in that blank, but you take that to this process and let's do this for 30 days. And okay, you may be now going, okay, you sold me, Mike. Where do I go for this? How do I do this? Again, this is free, right? So there's no money involved in this. I simply want you to show up and join me on this journey. And so if you go to dailycreativehabit.com, you will see a place to join the 30-day challenge. And you simply just need to enter your email address and join that list. And then you will receive one email a day for 30 days. There's also a private Facebook group that I highly encourage everyone to join, and you'll get that information in those emails. And in that Facebook group is a place where you can post some progress, you can post some questions, you can interact with other people who will be doing this 30-day challenge so that you're not feeling like you're just kind of doing this out on your own. There will be times during 30 days when you feel like not doing this at all. You feel like giving up. There will be other times that hopefully you feel like you've had some kind of breakthrough or some revelation, perhaps about yourself or about the creative project you're working on. There are a lot of things that can happen in 30 days, especially when you show up and you're intentional about things. You take action. And so this is your opportunity. January 15th is when it starts, 2023. We go for 30 days. And we have a Facebook group that's free that you'll get information sent to you via email. And you get 30 emails for 30 days with small, actionable steps moving you closer and closer to those creative goals that you will set for this next year. So what do you think? Are you in? This can be the year that actually moves the needle for you. This can be the year when you achieve something that perhaps you didn't even know you had in you. Maybe this is the year where you have a breakthrough in an idea that you would never have otherwise because you didn't give yourself time and a place to work this out. I want to tell you that small steps matter. And my life is a testimony to that. If it were not for the small steps, then I would not be where I am today. I would not be talking to you today. This podcast would not exist today. Any of the work that I've done within the past 12 years would not exist. I would have left my creativity on a shelf and probably withered and thought, you know what, that's it, game over in terms of my creativity, and just be swallowed up by the demands of life, the pressures, and I would not have achieved a lot of the things that I've achieved today. Some of them big, some of them small, some of them somewhere in between. But this isn't about me. This is about you. This is about setting you up for success. This is about you taking steps for 2024 so that you're doing something different so that you can see different results. And I know there's all sorts of reasons why this might not be the best time for you, or you have a lot on your plate, or fill in the blank. I understand that. And again, that's why I made this really small. These are small steps you do daily. These are, again, maybe 2-3 sentence emails that you're going to be getting that give you the framework and give you a process to bring your creativity to so that you can get to work. And I hope that I see you in this 30-day creative challenge. This is going to be a lot of fun. I am going to be there in the group in Facebook and answering some questions and interacting. And so if you'd like to be able to connect deeper beyond listening to the podcast, then again, this is your opportunity to do that. Go to dailycreativehabit.com, sign up for the 30-day creative challenge, and it starts again January 15th. I certainly hope that I will see you there. Go sign up for this now before you get distracted, before anything else comes into your path and takes you off course. Be intentional. Choose your creative goals and set yourself up for success for this next year. And we'll be back with another episode of Creative Chats on the other side of 2024. I can't wait. We have some great guests coming, and man, I hope that you have an amazing holiday season. I hope that you have an amazing time thinking about your creativity and then getting to work, putting action in place. as I always end these episodes with you, with this challenge in mind, go create something. Thanks for listening today. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, leave a rating and a review. It really helps this podcast be seen and heard by others.